So I'm going to try something here and hope that it works. I'm hoping you are seeing the screen here that has the TI-84 emulator, so you can get a little sense of what you need to be doing to enter values in, get some summary statistics, and do some graphing. Now, on the last slide of the notes, which have been posted on the excuse me, on Classroom, is a very small data set of I believe 7 values, and we'll just reference. We'll use those as our reference so we can be working with common things here. So first things first, we want to get things into a list. You may or may not have done this already in another math class. I'm hoping you have. But if you haven't, real quick, we can look at this and say, all right, here's our graphing calculator. We're going to hit Stat, and we're going to come to a list. So you just go to Edit, and we're going to want to edit. We're going to enter it to any list that is available. If it's not, if you need to clear it out, you always can, simply by going to the title, the L1, L2, L3, or whatever. Important to note here, if you are doing this, if you are trying to empty, let's say, L2 right here, you want to hit Clear. Do not hit Delete. And nothing will happen until you scroll off the top, but then it'll all go away. So again, if I wanted to empty out L3, I go to L3, I hit Clear, and I hit off the screen there. But I put all the values in L1 already. I didn't want to just be pushing buttons here because that just kind of adds time to the video without necessarily helping us. But it's simply a matter of saying, you know, if I wanted to add 14 here to L2, it's 14, enter, and there we have it. 13, enter, and so on and so forth. Right? And so we've got our list in L1. Well, the first thing we want to be able to do is come up with some summary statistics. Well, we're in stats class, so let's hit the stat button over here, right by the, a few up from the 8. It says stat. We're going to get a screen that looks like this. That's where we go to enter the list under edit. If you arrow over to calculate, and our very first option is 1var statistics. We're going to hit that, and anytime you get any sort of prompt like that on your calculator, it's asking for something. In this case, it's 1var stat, so we need to give it one list. And so I'm going to hit second and the number 1, which will give me L1. And we hit enter. And then we get a lot of stuff here, some of which we need, some of which we do not. The most important thing right off the bat is the average. This is the average of the data set. Anything with a bar over it, the calculator will use X bar. Our textbook uses Y bar. It's the bar over the top, the line over the top, that makes it the average. Right? So in this case, the average of that list 1 is 17. These next two really aren't important. The sum of the x's, the sum of the x squared, not all that important for anything we're going to do. These two here, the SX and then the Greek letter lowercase sigma x, those are standard deviations. They're both standard deviations. And the reason there are two of them is it's kind of, it used to be that we would distinguish between a sample standard deviation and a population standard deviation, which is generally a practice that has gone by the wayside now. If there are two standard deviations given to you, always, always, always use this sample standard deviation, the SX. In this case, it would be 3.65. Maybe, you should probably take it out to like 3.651. Don't round too much. The general rule in stats is you don't want to round too much. If you can keep it to 3, great. 4 is even better, but after that, you definitely don't need the whole decimal. But 3.61, 3.614, 3.651 is fine. 3.6514 or 5, that's fine too. Okay. Sometimes you're only going to have the Greek, the lowercase sigma version. If that's the only one you have, that's the one you should use. But those are very, very particular situations that we'll talk about in particular times. So hopefully, we remember that we're only ever going to use SX. N just tells you how many values you have, how many elements there are in the set, which is handy, especially if the number's not jiving with your neighbor and you're working on something together. It's like, well, wait a second, my average is not the same as yours. Why could that be? One reason could be that one of you might have either forgotten a value or put too many in. It would at least give you some place to check. This number, you should have an idea as to how many are in the set from the problem. And if we scroll down, so we have the mean and we have the standard deviation. Again, we don't want to calculate the standard deviation. We never want to calculate the standard deviation. It's tedious and it's time consuming, and you'll never be asked to do it anyway. But we'll talk more about it as we get later on about what the process is, so you understand it, but you won't ever have to do it. If we arrow down, we get this group here, the min, Q1, median, Q3, and max. That's called the 5-number summary. But for our purposes right now, 5-number summary is going to come in handy next chapter. For our purposes here, we're going to want to look at the median, which is 18, and 13 and 20, which is our IQR. Right? So the summary is this: when you look up one var stats, you are going to get measures of center and measures of spread. Okay? You have to know the difference as to which one you use when. But you will find both the mean and the standard deviation and the median and the IQR. And remember, in this case, the IQR is the range itself. We want 13 to 20, the central 50% of the data. There is going to be a situation where we're actually going to find the difference and we're going to use 7, but 13 to 20 is what we would use when we're describing the spread of a skewed data set. Okay? And the min and the max are just, well, that's handy to know, but sometimes, especially when we're dealing with a 7-entry data set, it's not the end of the world. We can probably figure those out without it. Right? But that's how we might get the measures of center and measures of spread. So you go to stat, and you go to one var stats, and you enter the list that you have it in. And now we want a graph. Okay, so let's make a graph. So we've got the data in there. We know we have both the mean and the standard deviation and the median and the IQR for both. Which one should we use? Right? So to make the graph, we go second y equal. Don't go to graph yet. We will, but not yet. Right? And because a lot of the graphs that we're doing in stats don't play well with others, you're going to want to make sure that there's nothing being plotted on any of the other plots. And if you go into y equals, there aren't any graphs that are on. You can keep the formulas in there. Just make sure you can just turn the equal signs off so they don't graph. But these are all erasable, I think. I thought they were erasable. Okay. Anyway. Oh no. I'm frozen. Right. Hold on, see if I can't fix it. Well, unfortunately, it looks like my emulator is frozen right now, which is kind of a pain in the butt. So I'll either try to fix it and get something back out to people later, or if I can't, I will get that. I'll take that into account as I write when I write the summative. But basically, to kind of give you just a verbal walkthrough, what we would want to do is we want to hit second and y equals, and then you're going to be able to kind of choose a histogram as an option, select that, and then give it the right list, and then you would hit graph. The only thing you might have to do to get it visualized on the screen is to hit zoom and then zoom stat, which is often option 9. But we'll worry about that at another time. I don't think it will affect the summative next week. Right? So that's how you find the one variable statistics, the mean and the standard deviation, and the median and the IQR given the graphing calculator. And again, I'll try to get this fixed so I can walk you through actually doing a histogram so you can get the visual, but we can probably work around that for the summative on early next week. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this helped.